What is up, guys? Welcome back to a much delayed episode of the 1912 Exiles podcast. Unfortunately, we've been on an extended hiatus, but we're back now and just in time for our big clash against Manchester City on the weekend. So, obviously, there's a lot to cover since our last episode just before Christmas. But a quick rundown of the ins and outs in terms of the January transfer window, in case you missed it. So, leaving the club, we had Cameron Pring go back to Bristol City and immediately go back out on loan to Cheltenham, which apparently was a footballing decision in terms of he wasn't getting a lot of game time behind Dan Butler, and they felt that he'd get more opportunities at Cheltenham. Next up, we have Mark Harris, went back to Cardiff. Again, he was another one who I think just wasn't getting the amount of game time with the form that Amund and Matt have been in. So he went back to Cardiff and immediately went back out on loan to Port Vale. And we've already played him since as well in the middle of January. Finally, or not finally, we've also had Jay Fulston leave the club. He has gone to Merthyr on loan to get some experience. Hopefully, he can come back improved, much like we hope with Mo Toure, and he can challenge for a first team berth next season. And the final out was someone who I feel a little bit sorry for, in that Antoine Semenyo, who has played fantastic for us recently, was recalled back to Bristol City in the midst of a deadline day bid by Chelsea. He was recalled and then the bid kind of fell through for whatever reason. So now he is at Bristol City once again, but he's not in their first team at present, and he's not out on loan either. So it's unfortunate for him because that high profile that he managed to create for himself with his impressive performances may be forgotten. You know what Chelsea are like, stockpiling youngsters. By the time the transfer window reopens again, they could very well have found someone else that they're interested in. So, obviously, we've had the outs, the ins. We've had Adebayo Aziz arrive from Cambridge. He's a striker. We've had the return of one of our own, Regan Poole, who has been very impressive. He was brilliant against Middlesbrough, and he was very good again against Mansfield on the weekend as well. Also, we've had Vachon Neuville come in. He was essentially a replacement for Pring. He's on loan from West Ham. He came in and went straight into the starting lineup for the Leicester game. He looked a little bit nervous at first, but he kind of played himself into it, and he did all right for most of the game. Again, he's probably not going to see a lot of game time. He's going to be the understudy to Dan Butler, but we needed that cover, so I'm glad that the club immediately went and sourced a replacement for Pring. Also coming in, we've had Ben Kennedy come in from Stevenage. I don't know whether Fraser Franks had anything to do with this transfer, both former Stevenage players, whether they're mates and he's had a word. But hopefully we can see something positive of him. He's got a fair amount of Football League experience, so hopefully he can be a contributor down the stretch. We've also had Harry McCurdy, another striker, on loan from Aston Villa. Don't know a whole lot about him, but looking forward to seeing him. He wasn't eligible to play against Middlesbrough, but he should be eligible this weekend and tonight against MK Dons. So in the interim, we've had this brilliant FA Cup run, but it probably has been at the expense of our league form. From the time that the third round tie against Leicester was announced, our form has dipped, and it has seen us fall out of contention, not only for the automatic promotion places, but for the playoff places as well. It's not all over yet, but I think our chances have certainly been hurt by this FA Cup run. But ultimately, it may be better for the club to take the money from this FA Cup run, consolidate, and go again next year. And what we want is sustainability. So if we can take that money from the cup run and invest it into facilities or into marketing the club and bringing more money in, then we might be able to make a more sustainable push for League One further down the line. Ultimately, we don't want to overstretch ourselves and end up in financial difficulties, because we all know sort of where that road leads. But in the interim period since our last podcast, we've played 8, won 2, drawn 2, lost 4. And one of the most concerning things really is that we've scored 5 league goals, but we've conceded 11. And we've had this tendency throughout the season that when we win by a goal. We never blow teams away. I can't remember us, apart from in the cup against Cambridge, really just absolutely hammering someone, beating them by 3 goals. Um, it's always 1-0s, 3-2s, 2-1s. The only team we have blown away recently is Middlesbrough. The team were looking like they were lacking confidence, but from what I've seen from after the Middlesbrough game and then into the Mansfield game, considering they absolutely hammered us the first game of the season 3-0, a 1-0 win, players are looking like they got that confidence back. So I think we can carry that forward as long as we don't get absolutely demolished on Saturday by Man City, and we have a very tough tie tonight as well against MK Dons. It is concerning that we just, when we lose, we tend to lose big, like the Yeovil game. We've had a 4-0 defeat as well. So that's damaging our goal difference. But we're currently sat in 13th, and we have 1 or 2 games in hand against the teams around us. So we could potentially go up as high as 9th, and then that's only a couple of places outside of the playoff positions. So if we had a good run, as well as our games in hand, we could see us move back into contention for the bottom half of those playoff places. But ultimately, like I said, start of the season, I predicted that we'd finish 11th, the same as we did last year, and I'd still be satisfied with that. Obviously, it'd be nice to push for promotion and see that forward progress from the club, but I think given the quality of some of the teams in the league, we're probably a upper mid-table side. So obviously, the big thing to happen in the period that we haven't been able to do the podcast was our phenomenal FA Cup run. And it's becoming a bit of a habit for us, especially with our home games. We had the running, we beat Leeds at home last season. We got the draw against Tottenham after leading them up until the 84th minute last year. And then this year we've got another great run again. We beat Leicester at home, which was very satisfying. Pretty good. I think we acquitted ourselves quite well for most of the game. We looked like we belonged. We rode our luck at times. They did have chances, and when James Maddison came on the second half, he caused us problems. But we dealt with them, and I thought we were going to have a repeat of the Tottenham game when we conceded in the 82nd minute. But then to immediately go up the other end and get the penalty, and it was a clear penalty as well, was really, really satisfying. Those moments in football where you win at the last, they're always exciting. And my seat was right by the stairwell, and I almost fell straight down the stairwell celebrating the penalty. Then we were away to Middlesbrough. Again, I had to listen to that one on the radio, but we held our own in that one again. We had opportunities. We weren't blown away. But from what I saw in the return leg when we played them at home, Middlesbrough really played to what our strengths are. So we're pretty good at dealing with straight balls over the top, just hit up at us. And that's all Middlesbrough were looking for. And our defenders dealt with it magnificently. We never looked in trouble. There was a chance first half where they clipped the outside of the post, but that was a bit of a pot shot from range that almost came off. So we dealt with that really well, and they just played into our hands to a certain extent. On the day, on the away leg, we were by far the best team. I'm glad the result ended up the way it did because we were denied a clear penalty in the first couple of minutes, first 10 minutes. And then we could have been 4 or 5-0 up by half time, and we were quite worried at the time that if things didn't go our way, it could just be one of those days where they nick a goal and then we're chasing the game, and that really plays into it, what a Pulis side wants. They want a side pushing forward to catch them on the break. But we completely outplayed Middlesbrough. If you were a neutral and you didn't know which division the two teams were in, you definitely by far and away would have said that we were the stronger side out of the two. And I think a really pleasing comment was from Tim Thraves, who does the I Follow commentary and he does some of the stadium announcing as well. And he said in his 60 years following the county, he's never seen a better performance than that. So I think that's high praise indeed. And I've got to agree with him. I know I haven't been watching it 60 years, but I've been watching it the best part of 20 years. And I can't remember a performance that good. What a tie it sets up for us now against the champions of England. The concerning thing about facing Manchester City is where we've struggled this season is with players running at us. I said it earlier on the season. I think it was against Oldham where we managed to nick a result away, but some of their players were running at us, and it really caused us problems. And you think if we're having problems against League Two players running at us, when you've got the likes of Mahrez, Sane, Raheem Sterling, De Bruyne, you've just got a wealth of talent there. The pitch could be a leveller if it's a bit bobbly. I know Mike Flynn joked after the Middlesbrough game that he's going to get the rugby teams out there playing a bit more and cutting it up as much as he can. So that might help us. The other thing that might help us is Man City's fixture list. So they play us on Saturday, and then they go away to Schalke on Wednesday, and then they play Chelsea in the League Cup final on the following Saturday. Even though they've just absolutely demolished Chelsea in the league last weekend, 6-0, they might rest players at Chelsea instead of at us. So I think it's going to be a tough one, and I think realistically, we're not likely to get past Man City. I think if we can get a draw and go away to the Etihad, and again have another set of fixtures and another set of gates that are shared because it's the FA Cup, just bringing more money in. It will probably be on TV again, so again that's more money in. It is just a money spinner essentially now, the FA Cup. As much as I'd love us to win the FA Cup or to go to Wembley and compete in a semi-final or the final, I just don't think it's realistic with the teams still in the competition and the fact that we have to play probably the favourites at this point. That being said, I think it puts a lot of focus on playing MK Dons tonight, and they've really fallen off the pace really since we were due to play them. I think it was the weekend that we had the Leicester game. Oh no, that was right. It was over Christmas and it was rained off, the MK Dons game, and then they've really fallen off the pace. So they were top of the league when we were due to face them before, and now they're sitting in 8th, and they are 11 points off top now. So they've really fallen off the pace as well. So I think if we play a strong side tonight, we've really got an opportunity, and that will help us climb back up the table, to sort of re-establish ourselves in the league and hopefully keep that confidence going. I think the confidence factor has been huge, to be honest. You look at the way Robbie Wilmot's been playing. He's scored his only 2 goals of the season, as far as I'm aware, in the last couple of games. But he's had some really good performances. He set up Jimmy or Matt in the Leicester game. And I also noticed that teams have started doubling up on him because of the threat of his delivery. And I even saw a Cruyff turn from Scott Bennett in the Middlesbrough game, which was fantastic. And it just shows the confidence that everyone's playing with at the moment. For the first time in a couple of years, we've got a really good strike partnership going on. I think the way Matt and Amund play together has really worked well this season. Amund is on 18 goals for the season. Matt is on 15. I don't think we've had a partnership that prolific for quite some time. That being said, that normally when you have a 30-plus goal partnership up top, you would normally expect to be in the promotion places if you've got a 20-goal-a-season striker. And that just shows how poor we've been in terms of the number of goals we've conceded. And this has been an issue for quite some time now, and I'm not sure there's any easy fix. I think sticking with this 3-5-2 that we kind of play, with the wing backs, is probably our best shape. We've dabbled with 4-4-2, but then we didn't have that many centre backs in order to do that. I think if we did go back to 4-4-2, I think Regan Poole could be a candidate to play at right back, if you wanted to keep Wilmot in at right midfield rather than a wing back, because he looked brilliant sort of getting into that right centre back position against Middlesbrough, and I think he could definitely play there. He's such a good footballer, he could probably play anywhere, to be honest. So I think that will be it for this week. I don't want to ramble on too much. We have the huge game tonight against MK Dons, and then just a small matter of playing against Manchester City on the weekend. But following into that, I've been invited to be on the Manchester City podcast, the Blue Moon podcast. So I should be recording that with the guys on Wednesday night, and that should be released on Friday. So if you want to catch me on that one, I'll be on there discussing my thoughts. I've already given a score prediction to them, and I went for 2-1 County because you can't bet against your own team. I think it'll be incredibly difficult, but you've got to try and be positive. I think we probably will concede at some point against Manchester City, given the wealth of attacking talent they have. Um, but we've been going good, and we've shocked teams. And if they rest some players, we could upset them again. So thanks very much for listening. Like and share the podcast if you've enjoyed it. We are available on Buzzsprout, the Amber Army YouTube channel. I'll catch you next time up the county. Thanks very much.